Well, hello. I aim to build on earned value management to present some new and challenging ideas for effective performance management. Well, as you can see from the title, this talk is on earned benefit program management. You're probably well acquainted with earned value, and the goal of this presentation is to introduce you to its cousin, earned benefit. The diagram shows the family link between earned benefit and earned value to intelligently link information for better program management. And we'll take the first steps today to introduce you to the basis of this technique. So, to repeat what's written in the abstract of the talk and to explain the title, Chicken, Eggs and Breakfast, where we want to move from the performance of the cook to the benefit for the customer, to make it clear, whereas the chicken makes the investment of producing the deliverable, the eggs, what really matters is the benefit gained from the eggs, for example, your enjoyment of the breakfast. Now, we're well acquainted with how to track from chicken to eggs using, for example, earned value. However, while making breakfast, program managers need to know how to evaluate progress towards the actual benefits, and then, of course, to evaluate the situation once the meal is being and has been consumed. So although earned value allows the program manager to track progress towards creating the deliverables, it only allows you to track how close you are to having breakfast ready at best. What is missing is a reliable method for linking this information intelligently to the end goal of benefit delivery and realization. And that is where earned benefit comes in. So this talk will present earned benefit and explain its role in specifying and analyzing the information and tools required for better program definition, planning, evaluation, tracking and review, with a focus obviously on achieving the business objectives. I'll start off by presenting some of the background and thinking that led to the development and go on through a case study. So I hope this has given you an appetite for more, so let's see what's on the menu for today. So what's on the menu for today? I'll start off by talking how we moved from the ideas of earned value to the ideas of earned benefit, and then go in more detail into the actual concepts involved. To make sure that we're talking about exactly the same ideas, I will talk about the family of projects, programs and portfolios. I will then talk about adding benefit to value and how those things fit together, and move on to the new tools which link from value to benefit and fit back into the concepts and the project management family we talked about before. These I will then apply to a case study which will give an idea of some of the value you get from earned benefit, and then link back to showing how earned benefit fits in with earned value by showing the additions to the 32 guidelines that would be required in order to add earned benefit to earned value in a formal manner. Let us look at in the beginning. Well, if you look at the fascinating history of earned value, which is in the link that I've shown, it states here that earned value started on the factory floor. I want to tell you that actually I believe that it started even before that. The history may have started on the factory floor, but it's the wrong factory. Prehistory starts 100 years earlier in a British cotton mill. This was using analog techniques. And here I'm just showing you a picture of what was known as a mill clock, because some mills in the 19th century had this specially devised type of clock that provided pacing for both the work and tracking the progress of the work with respect to the plan. Because the clock on the left is turned by the mill and it moves forward at the speed of people working. So it measures mill time, and the other one measures clock time. So the hands of the mill clock are moved according to the amount of work carried out, and those of the pendulum clock obviously measure the passing of time. If you're behind on progress, i.e. your earned value is lower than your planned value, the left-hand clock will be behind the right-hand clock. So in this way, the mill clock provides a continuous readout of earned value. And I think it's fair to say that things have moved on quite a long way since then. Just to show what you find on that interesting web page, all of the timeline going from 50 years ago right up to the present day. And in fact, when looking at it, to come back to basics, what I asked myself was not only where does it come from, but where do the terms come from? And the question was earned. People have said to me, well, you haven't earned it because actually, if you haven't finished it, you've got no deliverable at all. But even if it isn't finished and it isn't done, it still deserves to be paid. So my argument is you have earned your salary, so to speak, even when you haven't finished. Half of it done is like the mill clock would have shown, half of it has actually been worked on and the clock has moved forward. So you've earned the value even if you haven't got the deliverable out of it. The value? Well, is it really the value? Because as we know from the conventions, the value is calculated based on the agreed budget. Well, whose value is the agreed budget? Well, it's certainly the value to the person delivering the work, because that's what they're going to be paid. It's probably the value also of the purchasing organization, because what they are there for is to get best value for money. That's fair enough. So we've got earned value and we know to whom the value refers. But there are other people in the organization. There's not just the people delivering the work. There's not just the people buying the work. There's the people benefiting from the work. So let's go from value to benefit. Projects may be the foundation of project portfolio and program, but earned value, therefore, is the foundation of all of that. However, it's not the only member of the family. My view is to answer the question that I'm asking here, otherwise I just walk off the stage. My answer to this question is earned value management enough? The answer is it's excellent as a basis, but it's not enough on its own. And well, I'm not alone in stating that. In fact, in that interesting web page that I mentioned earlier, Gordon Krantz states earned value is very important, but integrated program management is even more important. This statement seems obvious at first sight, but we need to make sure we understand exactly what we mean by integrated program management. I believe we understand the idea of integrated, which means all the parts fit together and are consistent. But do we really all understand and see from the same point of view what a program is? Does it matter? I do believe it matters, and I'll explain why. And I really do think that terminology matters in order to avoid misunderstandings between all of the parties involved. And I have come up with a simple example that should stick in our minds quite well as the difference between American language and English language. I found out, for example, that the term entree, to come back to food, in America and the term entree in Europe are used quite differently on menus. In Europe, entree comes from the French for entry, and as you can see here, we seem to have quite a nice first dish, appetizer if you like. And if as a good European you were to say, oh, I would like a nice entree, and
you were sitting, for example, probably in the restaurant of this hotel, and you ended up with an American-style entree, you would have actually a large amount of trouble swallowing it. And a similar level of misunderstanding can occur in a more technical field, and I'll run through that rapidly.
Let's talk about the entire program portfolio and project family and how it fits into the overall organization. The overall organization has to communicate obviously with the outside world, and from that point of view it is the operations department which focuses on the service view in order to provide effective delivery. Delivery of what? It's delivery of capabilities built up from technology. So we'll start at the technology level where you have developers creating the tasks and applying their skills in order to do so. The tasks build up into the project deliverables, and the project manager expends energy in order to create the value, and as we said, that is really the supplier view of value. Fitting together the projects in order to provide a complete view and integrating them together with synergy, you need a program manager in order to provide the business with what it needs, i.e. the benefits to the overall business. And those benefits contribute to the overall portfolio or portfolios of the organization delivering strategy. And the strategic view is an investor view, with the metric being return on investment. And as you can see, these four major parts almost fit together, but in programs, it doesn't look as if it has the requisite traction on the other parts of the organization. And that is because in all of the other parts of the organization, whether it's tasks, projects or portfolios, there are dedicated tools that can be used. At the task level, it will really be the technical tools. Project level, earned value, for example. Portfolio level, let us talk about financial tools. But at the program level, if you look at the various standards, even the earned value management standard that has just come out, it borrows its tools from the other areas. My premise for this presentation is we can develop the tools, and I will define them, in order to provide the traction needed in order to get the program to fit in with the other cogwheels and for the overall organization to work effectively and all of the parts to fit together. Let's get back to basics then and talk about how the tools should fit in and then explain the tools. So to remind you of the basic ideas, what I want to do is to repeat how the ideas are that earned value helps the chef and the server know how close they are to having the breakfast ready. A very useful capability. But it doesn't do anything to inform you or the clients as to how this breakfast will improve the client's day or the client's life. So really what I want to do is to take earned value and Eggs Benedict to lead us into the concept of earned benefit. And therefore, starting from earned value, I will look at those tools in earned value that we know and introduce the additional tools required for earned benefit. And that is what will occur next. So now let's look at the tools. We'll start off from the tools that we know in projects, which are to support earned value, and go across to the tools that I will explain to you that we need for programs. And as I promised, we're starting from earned value. So the key tool for earned value, or the starting position, is the work breakdown structure. Corresponding to that in programs, you have the benefits realization map. Similarly, in projects, you need a schedule. In programs, you need to know all about time as well. And in this case, we explain it in terms of a roadmap. And the third point in projects,
our earned value management, and as I have promised, we will get on to understanding earned benefit management. I'll explain each of these tools based on a simple case study, which we will see next. The benefits realization map for this case study will show how to build up and integrate the various components required for setting up a garden centre business and coming up with a valid, verifiable and trackable business plan. The entire benefits realization map will look like this, and rather than explaining it in detail on this picture, we will build it up on the following slides. So our case study is fairly artificial, but simple enough to allow us to talk about it in just a few minutes. And we're going to start with the end in mind of building, in this case, or setting up a sophisticated garden centre. And the strategic information is simply that we're aiming for three main business targets. The public, from which we hope within the period that we're analysing to get €100,000. High-end customers should be worth €200,000 and local authorities 300,000. I've used the term contribution because each of those contribute to the total amount that we hope to benefit from, which is €600,000. Always nice to start with the end in mind, but we need a plan or a map of how to get there. So we'll do it in easy steps. So we start from what we have just defined, and we say what steps do we need in order to get there. And the steps in this case are that we have to set up a retail outlet, for which we actually need to set up customer support, of course, to understand the customers, and we need to set up special projects as well. Those are connected to the end goals as shown by arrows. So the retail outlet, for example, contributes to the public and high-end customers. Special projects contribute to the high-end customers and to local authorities. And customer support is not provided for special projects. That's nice, but what do we need to do to get there? So this is where we've got to so far. And in more complex programs, we would need to go through a number of additional steps before being able to define which projects are actually required. However, in our case, we can go straight to the projects. And as you can see on the diagram, they are shown C1 to C6, that we have 6 projects. We have shown the dependency arrows, and each project has been costed by the expert technical team responsible for the project, and the allocation, as we call it, to the total costs for each of those projects has been calculated. This makes the program look very beneficial because if you look at the sum of the contributions, i.e. the total benefits, it comes to 600,000, whereas the total allocations only come to 470,000 euros, which is an extremely good return on investment. The other point to bear in mind, as you will probably have thought yourselves, is that defining the dependency arrows is all fine, but there is no guarantee that each dependency arrow will contribute as the same amount as the others to any destination. For example, for the public service, which is worth 100,000 euros, we have 2 incoming arrows, and we need to work out with the business managers and business analysts a weighting between the 2 of them. And by definition, of course, for example, as we see for the public node, there are 2 incoming arrows, and therefore the sum of the percentage on each must come up to 100%. These percentages I have called contribution fractions. And as I say, we will assume that the business managers have defined them, and therefore we can draw them into the diagram as follows. So here come the contribution fractions that we talked about. And as you can see, we put them all in, and it doesn't take much effort to see that in each case, for example, with the retail outlet, they add up to 100%. The question then is, how do we use them? What we want to do, therefore, is to calculate from right to left across the diagram to find out what is the contribution of each of the component projects. And for the purpose of this case study, I will show you how to work out the contribution of the office furniture, that is to say, node C5 in this diagram. And if you look, basically it depends on the retail outlet, and the retail outlet depends on two other nodes, which are B2 the high end and B1 the public. So let us work our way across. We start off by looking at the public node, and as you can see, the contribution fraction between the retail outlet and the public node is 50%. So the value of that link, which we could call the contribution share of that link, is 50% of 100,000 euros, which is fairly easy to calculate as being 50,000. Once you have that, we can do the same coming from the other link that goes into it from the high end, and up here we will therefore simply take the 30.8% multiplied by 200,000, come up with 61,667, and see that we can see on this diagram the two contributions from the retail outlet. They're the only ones the retail outlet is responsible for, and therefore its total contribution must be the sum of those two, which we can calculate as 111,667. Having got that far, we can therefore now look at the link that goes from the retail outlet to office furniture, which has a contribution fraction of 30.6%, and doing the sums, we can come up from that 36% of 111,667 comes to 41,667 as the contribution share of that link, and that's the only one coming from office furniture. So the office furniture value is 41,667 from the benefit point of view, although its cost is 20,000. We can obviously do the same thing for all of the other nodes on the diagram and come up with a complete picture, which I will show you next. So here we have the full map calculated from right to left. The important point to pick up on, for example, is to look at the top left-hand corner at the servers, where we can see, and this is quite important when analyzing such a diagram, that the contribution of 75,000 of the servers is considerably less than the investment we need to make as an allocation of 200,000 euros. We will take the assumption that despite this, and because of the overall positive return on investment of the project, that we have stuck with the project despite this point. And we will see the effect that it has on the overall analysis of the diagram and the progress analysis and the planning and the performance measuring of the overall program, as we will see in later slides. So we're now in a position to talk about earned benefit. From the diagram and the work we've done, we've started from the earned value concepts, and we know the cost of each component project, and we can apply, for example, earned value to understand percent complete, which depends on how much work we've done. We've also worked out the benefit expected from each of the component projects, and it doesn't take a great leap of faith to realize that we can use the same approach as for earned value and say, really, if we've only completed part of the work, we've only earned part of the project's benefit at completion rather than the project's budget at completion, which we use for earned value. Using these concepts, therefore, we can say that earned benefit for component I is actually the benefit at completion of that component multiplied by its percent complete. And for the overall program, the program earned benefit is the sum of the component earned benefit values. In order to apply this, obviously, what we need to know is the speed at which we expect to deliver the program. And for this, we need a schedule. And for programs, this schedule comes in the form of a program roadmap. And we'll see that on the next slide. Here is the roadmap for the example. And you will see that we've got the benefits at the top and the components themselves as with their dates and indicating, once again, just like in the benefits realization map, the dependencies of the benefits on the contributing projects. So those arrows show you which benefit the various component projects contribute to, and now we have on this diagram the actual dates. Benefit 1 will be, so to speak, potentially available on the 1st of April. That is no joke. And benefits 2 and 3, you have to wait till the 1st of September for them to occur or appear to occur. That means that the program actually, from the delivery point of view, ends on the 1st of September. And we will see this a bit later in a cash flow diagram. But we have the benefits realization and the component delivery timescales here on the benefits map. Earned benefit and earned value work effectively together. As you can see from this slide, we have the planned value curve here, which is from the earned value management domain, and we have the planned benefit curve here, which is from the earned benefit domain. And you will also see, and it's not hard to see, that the actual planned benefit curve climbs much slower at the start than the planned value one. It's a marked contrast, and it comes from the fact that, as I underlined before, the first component, i.e. the servers, actually cost much more than they deliver. The gap between these two curves actually indicates the return on investment at any point in the program. And starting from the start, you can see illustrated in red that the return on investment at the start is negative. And it is only when the later components, which deliver much more value than, or much more benefit than they cost, that you end up with a positive return on investment, which is the final result of the program itself. Now, this is a very important message for management. It's necessary for setting expectations correctly, because unless management understands the situation, they could draw the wrong conclusions as the program develops. What, we're still spending more than we actually have as a potential benefit? They might decide, therefore, to make unsafe decisions such as stopping the program before it can actually reach its full potential. We could show it as a picture like that, but we could also show it just as return on investment in a dedicated slide. This slide contains the same information as on the previous one, but in this case we are just plotting the return on investment at each point in the reporting. So we start off with a very negative return on investment, and it basically oscillates slightly in the first few months before becoming steadily more and more positive. So this information would be extremely important to management. And once we have the reported actuals at any given point in time, we'll be in a good position to provide more complete status reports than we would just providing earned value information. What will be interesting then is to take our case study, take a few more assumptions on where we are, and examine a situation, for example, on the 1st of July within the program. The following numbers will be shown on a graph as well, But basically we are 1st of July and we have a planned value of 345,000 euros and we've only earned 342,000. An actual cost considerably more than we had planned for, which is 450,000 euros. And in fact, the planned benefit was supposed to be 400,000. And from our calculations based on the percent complete of the various components, we have actually earned as earned of benefit only 370,000 euros. That's all numbers, but let's see it in pictures. So let us start from the diagram we saw earlier, which shows the two curves, the one for earned value and the one for earned benefit, and draw on it the data date of the 1st of July. Let's put on the figures we know, starting off from the earned value figures. Planned value, as you can read off from the curve, is 345,000. By definition for this case study, we have said that the earned value, however, is 342,000. The third number that we actually need, whether it is for earned value or for earned benefit, is the actual cost. So let us put that on. It was 450,000. If you look at it, you can really see that the earned value is considerably lower than the actual cost, which is extremely worrying, and even lower than still lower than the planned value. What does this say for you experts in mental calculation and knowledgeable on earned value? It says that the schedule performance index is really not too bad because the difference between earned and planned is very small. However, the cost performance index really shows quite a considerable difference. Now let us go to earned benefit. We need a couple of figures for that. The ones that we mentioned on the previous slide, which are the planned benefit was 400,000, which we will draw on there, and also that the earned benefit was 370,000. Now we have the figures that we need for earned benefit as well, because we've got actual cost, earned benefit, and planned benefit. So we can do some more calculations here, which will provide us with the numbers which say that benefit schedule performance index is 93%, i.e. we are actually approaching our benefit slower than we're approaching the deliverables all integrated together. However, the benefit cost performance index is better because of the difference between the slope of the value at that point of the planned benefit curve. That being the case, we can also add one other number which is important and can always be a very sobering number, which is the benefit value performance index, which takes into account both the benefit schedule performance and the benefit cost performance. By looking at the fact that actually we have, from the earned benefit point of view, we have only earned the benefit that we would expect to have at a month earlier than it really is. So on the 1st of June, we should already have earned that much benefit. However, if we look at the cost point of view, we have spent the money that we should really only have spent 2 months later. So another way of looking at that is that after spending 6 months, i.e. the 1st of January to the 1st of July, on the program, we have spent as much as we should have spent on the whole program, and we only really earned half of what we should have done. So the benefit value performance index is only 50%. There are, of course, many other indicators just as they are for earned value, but in this case, I will just show you a few of them. Now that we've understood the link between earned value and earned benefit, we can actually add all of the indicators to the earned value list and come up with an extensive list as shown here, combining the two, going everywhere from planned value to planned benefit and to complete performance indexes, which include both time and cost and benefits. However, as we saw earlier, and we know full well, earned value is only applicable during the lifetime of a project, because once the deliverable is available, the agreed value has been achieved. However, because benefits just keep on giving, earned benefit continues to provide useful forecasting reports well beyond the end of the development work, right into operations. I will show you what this means, because every realistic business plan requires a credible cash flow forecast that does go beyond the end of the delivery. And the earned benefit method will provide this, as shown next. In order to forecast the actual benefit cash flow, you need to supplement the planned project schedules with the information on the delay between the nodes that corresponds to the ramp-up delay between achieving a capability or outcome and actually profiting from it. This is an example taken from my book, and as you can see, the delays mount up. Whereas the work on the project is complete in August, the return for the benefits does not achieve its maximum until early November. The information can be shown much more clearly as a set of graphs. So for forecasting the spend and the benefit, we can come up with three curves based on the previous diagram. And these can be shown as follows, and we'll explain them because the first one that we'll look at is the one that we actually know from earned value, which is basically the planned spend, which is the planned value curve. And that mounts up and stabilizes, obviously, once we stop the program. And it is shown, therefore, as this curve on which I put euros. Then, from the benefits point of view, as we saw from the delays, the benefits don't come on board immediately. And therefore, we have a monthly amount of benefit that is coming in, which doesn't actually appear at all until about the 1st of May, and then it goes up steadily until the date that we did see on the previous diagram, which is about the 1st of November, and then once again it plateaus because we've reached the maximum level. And that one I've shown as a B for benefit. Since the benefits occur in each month, we can then calculate how much the benefit has contributed in each month and get the cumulative benefit curve, which is shown as the lowest one there, and it mounts up steadily until it reaches the break-even point, as we can see, round about the 1st of May, when it has cut the spend curve, which had plateaued from the 1st of September. Obviously, you can adapt these curves to take in present value, net present value, and also integrate any additional operational costs into the curves in order to come up with different financial numbers which would be required in the business plan. But the basic information required is there in order to provide management with full control and full knowledge of the performance of the program. And what is important as well, and I had mentioned, but now I'm about to show you, is that all of these formulae and concepts do fit in effectively into the existing methodologies and standards and rules for earned value that you know very well, and I will explain based on the 32 guidelines for complying with the requirements for effective and compliant earned value management that can be extended to earned benefit management. All of the preceding analysis was designed to provide executive management with the information they need to support decision making in a consistent and controlled manner. This is the goal, obviously, of the 32 earned value management guidelines. So let's see how EVM, earned benefit management, could fit into that formalism. So let's start from the 32 guidelines and look at each of them, or the main ones, in turn. For defining and organizing the work, Two important guidelines are 1 and 5, which define the WBS and integrate the WBS and OBS. As we saw earlier, the work breakdown structure for earned value management is supplemented with the benefits map for earned benefit management. So we'll come back to that in a moment. Similarly, status schedule measurement for performance, guideline 22, looks at schedule variance and cost variance. We need to supplement that with the additional indicators from earned benefit management. Also, for recording the direct and actual costs, summarizing by WBS elements is interesting for projects, but for programs, we need to talk about once again, the benefits map, of which we will in a moment. Similarly, calculating and identifying and analyzing the variances, once again, schedule variance and cost variance need supplementing. For integrating and managing subcontractors, we need to talk about the WBS and the SV and CV. For earned value, obviously, we need benefits map and additional indicators for earned benefit. As well, for identifying, analyzing and managing the risks and opportunities, we need not only schedule and cost variance. And finally, of the main areas, managing material, once again, for managing, we need those indicators from the earned value area to be supplemented with earned benefit ones. So for each of those four major guidelines, what should they be supplemented with? Well, for developing the WBS, we supplement that with developing the benefits realization map, the integration of the WBS and the OBS. You add the benefits realization map once again and integrate it with the organizational breakdown structure. Similarly, summarizing the WBS, you now summarize it also. We summarize the actual costs by benefits realization management components. And we can see about that based on the benefits map once again. And then calculation of the indicators, we need also to calculate the benefits schedule variance, benefits cost variance, and benefits performance variance. That's the major set of modifications. And as you can see, the benefits realization builds on the earned value management, and the partnership between earned value and earned benefit provides a large number of additional capabilities as well for intelligently linking information for better program management. What are these additional capabilities? Here are some of them. For a start, disbenefits. Just as risk and opportunity are two sides of the same coin, benefits and disbenefits are two sides of the same coin. Normally aiming to get something good. I'm afraid although every cloud has a silver lining, every silver lining might have a bit of a cloud. That can be dealt with in the benefits realization approach as well. Optimization, we need to talk about special constraints on programs, how to define sub-programs, how to deal with cross-subsidies where one of the components seems to cost more than it delivers. All of those points can be dealt with in an objective and numerical manner using some of the additional techniques that are defined in the book. Obviously, program risk analysis is absolutely key, and some of the assumptions, for example, does a capability deliver a given outcome? Does an outcome deliver a genuine benefit? Can be wrong, and these have to be analyzed, assessed and tracked, and that can also be done effectively using additional techniques. As well, since we now have a good idea from the benefits realization map of the value of every one of the steps, we can work with suppliers to gain a greater benefit by using their innovative approach and creativity to help us come up with potentially better solutions for the problem at hand. Obviously, schedule and cash flow, we saw the ramp up and benefits taking into account with the graph we saw just earlier. And also, once we have that information, we can carry out tracking once the program is, so to speak, up to speed and running effectively, to find out whether we are progressing effectively with respect to the plan we had, and analyzing any variances with respect to that. And finally, as we always mention, continuous improvement. We have to learn how to enhance the model and the plan, not only in the current program that one is running, but for future programs. For example, by taking advantage of lessons learned that we may have carried out based on analyzing the scheduling and cash flow realities as opposed to the plan. So this leads us to what I would call total benefits management. And that really is all put together. Once again, I should underline that this really allows us to intelligently link information for better program management. As a conclusion, therefore, what we have seen is we started from the need to add a concept of benefit to the idea of value. So this, we could say, we've added the enjoyment of the breakfast as well as the cost of the ingredients. We started off with the superficial sort of view of going from the eggs value to eggs Benedict and replacing that with going in a numerical manner from earned value to earned benefit. And the concepts are not destructive, they actually are constructive. They enhance the power of existing tools and techniques and processes and procedures. The goal is building on the past to improve the future. By ensuring an effective integrated program performance management approach. The goal is to complete projects within budget, but while delivering the promised benefits on time to the customer. To ensure, in fact, the real goal is a better understanding between funders, implementers, contractors, oversight committees and organisations who are involved in auditing and approving and delivering the funds, so that the integrated and intelligent use of data actually leads to better communication as well as better program management as a whole.
At the start of the presentation, I had mentioned the comment by Gordon Krantz of the importance of integrated program management. And from my point of view, I'd like to define it as the ability to deliver programs on time and within budget while providing the planned benefit to the customer and, of course, to the business. So let us underline the importance of integrated program performance management. And this is how we want to let integrated program performance management build up together in order to provide a complete service for programs and for management. So it's now over to you for questions and answers.